nice control. He had very nice control of his technique and sound. He was good vibrato. We'll talk a little bit about that. And the artistry was definitely there. He really helped shape the cadenzas quite well. So I have really not a whole lot to say, except I'd like to share a couple, first of all, small thoughts as far as setup and communication to the audience. Because I was sitting back there and I was wondering, and I just played this with the piano just last week, and I'm thinking, so how is he going to do this section? How is he going to cue this section? How are you going to, and I felt that there are times that you can have more connection with your pianist, your collaborator, and with the audience. So the first thing is when you play, when you set up, I think you were at a disadvantage because you were playing over there, maybe to the camera, maybe to Mr. Dalkey over to Professor Dalkey. And obviously, when you see violin concerts or string concerts, a lot of times the string player will play from here. And that's tradition. And really, actually, saxophonists, I always felt, should play from here because the sound, a lot of the sound would come out here on the right side. But typically, it's better for us, I feel, to play right here because we have a direct line of communication with her. And there were several little spots where I felt the ensemble could have really been tightened up a little bit if you had just given her a little bit of a cue, you know, just so you knew exactly where she was. So, have you played at this position ever? Good, now's the time to try. Or resounding yes, no, now's the time to try. And we'll get a nice side shot. This is really your good side. When you play like this, and actually, we should set ourselves, you know, and you haven't done a lot on the stage, per se, and we're a little bit askew, so a lot of times pianists like to have the piano like right parallel to the back wall, and that sets us this way, which is really not the best way. And when I play this with Professor Nickel, he likes to have an angle on the angle, just like it is, and I can see why, because the sound gets out to the audience where I have a great line of sight with my collaborator, and we're square to the audience. Now we can look at the audience, and that's our second one. Look at your audience when you play. You know, when you're playing, you play the opening. You know. I'm staring at everybody. I don't need to stare at people, but I want to get my point across individually to each. So can you try this opening and play with your eyes open? And look at her when you're about ready to create your sound. And even if you don't, and you shouldn't necessarily have to, just she'll pick up everything from your breath, wood in your lips, close on the mouthpiece. Sometimes pianists even watch our fingers depress, but you don't have to do that. Take it. it's only awkward because we're afraid about something happening. We're afraid about there's a movement back there, Professor Rippey is taking pictures, or somebody's talking, or there's different distractions. But it's good for us because this way you can even set your mind to music, I think, even at a deeper level. So I would always suggest playing the guitar and trying to communicate. Now, let's talk a little bit about your phrasing. I'm just going to touch about a few comments because I only have a few minutes, and then my colleague here is going to take over a little bit. Your phrasing is very good. I like the fact you're using vibrato. I like this piece a lot because it really gives us the opportunity to create longer phrases. Longer phrases. I feel sometimes we're doing these little short segments of phrasing. When I just played this last week, it was the first time I ever played it and prepared it. I mean, I practiced it and taught it and so on and so forth. But in playing it, I found myself, geez, this is really segmented by diverse amount of 4-bar phrase structures. And I would rather connect it into longer phrase structures. So can you think about connecting them? Would you not play here? So here, the structures. That's the leading tone. E flat major. And all these guide notes, or these leading notes, are leading to the 5th bar. So we don't really want to back off the airstream or really the direction we want. Let's try it again and see if we can connect. Okay? I'm going to help you. Okay? Go ahead, please. And these are all very subjective things for us to decide. I mean, this piece lends itself to a lot of different game plans of push and pull. exact opposite. Can you play at C, please? I'll do the exact opposite. I'll pull back and I'll push the first 8 bars, and I'll push the second 8 bars. Go ahead, please. Saxophonists or singers or whatnot, but we have to find a certain area where that vibrato doesn't sound. For me, I'd like to have you sing. Right, do you think? No warmer air?
Like this way?
Yeah, why do you think a violinist would stand where you were standing before?
Because the sound comes.
The sound goes that way. Is sound really an issue with the saxophone? Yeah, we're loud enough, right? Which actually brings me to another point. That little stick right there, would you ever walk on stage and play a piano recital with that little stick? Would you? Yeah, would you actually play it on short stick? Or would you play a piano recital on a short stick? No, never, right? Because why? The sound is beautiful. The sound of the piano is gorgeous, and that's kind of like taking your, a singer and putting a scarf over their face. That's for little wimpy instruments like flutes and stuff. We shouldn't play like that. let the sound of the piano come out, because the sound of the piano is a gorgeous instrument, and you're not going to get covered up. That's for people who are worried about getting covered up. So put the thing up on full stick, and that'll actually, you won't feel like you have to walk on eggshells ever then, because when she's playing, it'll make more noise. That's helpful, because your louds, you can get louder, and you're not going to sound like you're blasting, because she's going to be able to support you a little bit better. Your softs, she's going to still have a little more presence of sound, and it's going to sound better, okay? So that's one thing, and I completely agree. There's no reason, the reason that they stand there is because of where the sound holes are shooting out.
Yeah.
You don't have that issue. You can stand behind those curtains, and she'll still hear you.
By the way, don't ever let anybody tell you that you have to play fantastic unless it's your professor talking about balance in a specific group. Because that's the way saxophones should always be playing. And additionally, because you want to get your sound to resonate the strings more.
Yeah.
And that really gets the sound.
In addition to, again, I agree with everything you said. The only other comment I would have, another thing about stage presence, for one thing, if you're a vocalist and you're singing and he's trying to get you to sing, where are you going to stand? Vocalists stand right here, they have their feet on the thing, they stand right in their crook, and they're doing this kind of thing, right? But they're communicating to the audience, which is what he was doing. Part of the stage presence, you don't want, what did you do when you got done playing? Do you remember what you did?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's exactly what you did, nothing. Now, if you saw, Yo-Yo Ma in a concert, you think he would finish and just do nothing? What would he do?
You would bow.
Well, okay, the general rule of thumb, this is it. If they're clapping, you acknowledge it. Okay? If they're saying, we're glad you're here, thank you, you acknowledge it. And you do it as soon as you comfortably can. You don't throw things in the bow. But when you walk out on stage, you didn't have the opportunity to do that tonight. But for example, when you walk out on stage and people are clapping, you don't just walk out and ignore them and put your music down and start talking to your pianist, right? If they're clapping, you want to walk out and you want to bow, and then you put your music down and everything. Because you've been sitting in the audience before where you're clapping and waiting for them to bow. And you're waiting, you're like, bow. And then sometimes people stop clapping and then you haven't bowed and then you start awkward. Just bow. So if they're clapping, acknowledge it. Even if, again, you see jazz players, you see rock and roll players, they'll even do the same thing. They finish their stuff and they might not bow completely, but they'll at least kind of nod or do something to the audience to acknowledge it. If they're saying thank you, say you're welcome. You know what I mean? So make sure you bow.
And Michael, you have YouTube, right? You watch YouTube probably 10 times a day, at least, right? Watch how professional performers and student performers, your colleagues, perform on YouTube, and hopefully you'll see what he's telling you about and what we do. And just that's the tradition that you will you can learn to absorb, because you play great. You play great.
Can I interject one person that's not getting to enjoy applause? His teacher, Walter Hohen. Michael's teacher is Walter Hohen.
Well, where's Walter?
Walter has two young ones that, since their mother is a surgeon and probably is in surgery right now, he had to be with them.
Well, let's give Walter a round of applause. And Michael too. Michael too. Good job.
And while he's finishing up there, don't ever look at the audience when you bow. You look at your feet. Don't do this. Do this. Go down at least long enough to say, those are my shoes. Or those are someone else's shoes that you bow, whatever. You can bow for a really long time and it looks fine. If you bow this long, that's fine. If you do this,
Yes.
you look silly, right?
Now, two of these players know one another. Michael and Nathan share co-principal in the All West competition. This band is Blue Band. And you were in the Blue Band, Barry? On the Barry? On the bass clarinet. Yeah, that's what we tell me. Yeah, we have a rash of really good saxophones that play bass clarinet.
That guy started over that time.
So we're gonna feature UT Martin now.
Thanks, Mike. You're doing a great job.
I have one of the
Their
one of
professor
the
is
UT
here.
Martin come up
Stand
for a
up.
second.
Professor Doyle Owens.
This is not
They driven down and they're gonna stay
So
overnight.
check your setup.
And,
Understand
Try
it.
one more
Thanks,
with
Mike.
us tomorrow morning.
So set it up the way you want
So
it.
they should be on the same page as anyone else. And, off they go.
I think so.
I think these people like to stand. They like to stand